Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stu here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation here in Spain, day 351 of the current situation. And after a brief respite, violence has returned to the city of Barcelona, but more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel by buying merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now let's get into the news, and as I said, unfortunately, violence, rioting and looting has returned to the city of Barcelona. As we can see from this headline, vandals burn a police van and attack hotels and banks. The rioters set fire to a police vehicle with agents inside, destroyed access to the Hotel Calderon, and looted large establishments such as Decathlon and Zara. Violence returns to the streets of Barcelona. After 2 nights without disturbances, the rioters have once again ravaged the city centre, causing serious altercations, including the attack on a Guardia Urbana de la Rambla police station and several banks and hotels. The most prominent incident occurred when a group of hooded men set fire to a local Barcelona police van by throwing flammable liquid at it when a local Barcelona police officer was inside. So violence returning to the streets of Barcelona with some very serious attacks there, especially the one on a police van with an officer still inside. Now, all of this violence in Barcelona has led one newspaper here in Spain to call that city the European capital of anti-system violence. Secessionists and anarchists chronicle the riots which are encouraged by politicians. Catalonia, but especially Barcelona, is these weeks, and also for a couple of years, the epicenter of anti-establishment violence in Europe. Every so often, the streets of Barcelona are the scene of major riots featuring a unique hodgepodge of anti-system groups of different origins. Anarchists, the squatter movement, but also the violent independence movement, which has led or may lead to a chronification of this type of violence. So Catalonia, and in particular Barcelona, the epicenter of anti-establishment violence in Europe, according to that newspaper. Now we'll turn our attention to the controversial vaccine passport. As we can see from this headline, the European Union wants to approve a European health passport in June. During this week, the 27 countries of the European Union have taken great steps to approve a European vaccination passport so that travel within the continent can be allowed and reactivate the economy of southern countries like Spain. Despite calls for restrictions to be maintained, some countries like Spain are trying to boost travel, at least within the continent. This week, the 27 countries of the European Union have taken decisive steps towards a European health passport. The measure could be ready in June and would activate an essential sector for southern European countries. There is a lot of interest in applying this measure from Portugal, Greece and Italy. The idea is that this document, which is going to be digital, can save travellers from quarantining, and that is already a big step. It will not only include personal information and, for example, if we are vaccinated or not, and what vaccines and with how many doses. It will also include information on whether we have passed the disease, that is, if we have a shield, defences, or if we can certify with a PCR that we do not carry the virus. Therefore, it is much more than a passport. It is a record that could be vital for the Spanish tourism industry and also for its best clients, the British. So a European health passport, fundamental for countries here in the south of Europe when it comes to reactivating their tourist sectors. However, it's not all smooth sailing for this health passport. Some countries in the European Union have expressed their doubts, and as we can see here, discrepancies in the EU on the use of the vaccination passport. Countries that want to speed up mobility clash with those that fear discrimination. Europe will have a vaccination passport, and probably for the summer, but at this time no one knows yet what it will do. The constant pressure from southern countries and those most dependent on tourism, such as Spain and Greece, has been scratching allies among the 27 until the step that was taken on Thursday was achieved, activating the process to acquire this digital certificate. The technical work has already started, but will soon enter the field of political decisions on which there is no consensus. What most worries some countries, among which are France and Germany, is the potential discriminatory element that may involve converting the vaccine certificate into a passport that opens borders that continue to be closed to those who do not have such a document. In this sense, French President Emmanuel Macron was the most forceful in warning that this document cannot provide specific rights to vaccinated people. So there we go, discrepancies in the European Union when it comes to the exact details of the vaccination passport, and mainly coming from France and Germany, the two biggest countries in the EU. So who will have the final say? I know where I'd be putting my money. Now a little bit closer to home now, and on the topic of the vaccination plan here in Spain, and good news if you live in the Valencian community. We can see here Valencia plans to administer 400,000 weekly doses from April. Valencian Premier Puig and the Minister of Health have transferred to the municipal offices the mass vaccination plan designed by the council, which defines the spaces and the immunisation process. The President of the Generalitat Valenciana, Ximo Puig, detailed this Saturday that the mass vaccination plan for the Valencian community foresees that 400,000 weekly doses will be administered to the population at authorised points in 161 municipalities, if the pharmaceutical companies comply, he points out. So a very big if and an important caveat left there by the Valencian Premier, Mr. Puig. Now let's have a look at the health data around the country, starting with the map of Spain. And we can see that the risk level there says extreme, but it has been downgraded to high. The total amount of cases around the country, the accumulated incidence rate in the last 14 days, now down to 193. There have been 862 COVID-related deaths over the last 7 days. There are currently 12,207 people hospitalised in Spain with COVID, and there are 3,021 people in ICUs, which is just under 29% of all ICUs in Spain. Extremadura now, and the risk level there is medium, the total amount of cases. The accumulated incidence rate now down to 69.4, the lowest on mainland Spain, and I think around the whole country. There are now only 97 people hospitalised in Extremadura with COVID, and there are 33 people still in ICUs, which is just under 17% of all ICUs in that autonomous community. Finally, the Canary Islands, we can see that the risk level there is high. The incidence rate for the last 14 days is now sitting at 106. There are currently 238 people hospitalised in the Canary Islands with COVID, and there are 79 people in ICUs, which is also just under 17% of all ICUs in the Canary Islands. Now we'll talk about the economy now. We all know that 2020 was a very bad year for Spain's economy, and 2021 is also looking dodgy. As we can see here, the economy is at stake in July. The wound of COVID includes falls of up to 27% of GDP in the Balearic Islands, ground zero of the collapse in Spain. The deadlines are decisive. If the recovery does not arrive in summer, thousands of companies will close. The flapping of a bat in Wuhan causes an economic hurricane in the western Mediterranean. A gloomy and serious air runs through the spine of Magaluf, the epicenter of Mallorcan mass tourism and ground zero of the crisis in Spain. At the end of the Punta Ballena Street, there is a huge pub, the Plaza, a supermarket, Malvinas, and a towering bar, the Temple, which used to attract hordes of hooligans with a lady waddling on the roof. All three are closed tight. In the first section of the road, there is another tavern and then a tobacco shop, 2 tattoo shops, a hamburger joint, something similar to a jewelry store, an establishment that offers fried chicken, an ATM, 3 additional pubs, and exactly nothing else. Sun and beach, alcohol and drugs, and balconing and other perversions aimed at thousands of British tourists have been part of the landscape of this town for decades, with the exception that not a single tourist has been seen around here in months. The blinds are down. COVID exhibits its scars in all its rawness. Businessmen don't even know if there will be a tourist season. I would start singing if they assure me that we can open in July. Another year would be a ruin, laments Tony Harash, owner of a score of hotels, one of them in the heart of Magaluf. That ground zero was not an easy metaphor. The Balearic GDP fell 27% in 2020, 2.5 times more than the whole of Spain. The Balearic and Spanish economies tell the same story, but everything is more baroque on the islands. The collapse is more pronounced due to the great weight of tourism. 16 million arrivals in 2019 for a population that barely exceeds 1 million inhabitants. That 27% loss in a single year lives up to the destruction capacity of the Great Depression in America for nearly a decade of the Grapes of Wrath. It is equivalent to the debacle that devastated Greece during a 5-year euro crisis. So if you ever wondered why there was so much pressure to get the country open again for tourists, that's the reason why. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Jean. Hi Stuart, thanks for the update. I'm in Rojales and our bars and restaurants have been closed for a month, but can buy takeaways. March the 1st they will be open again for 2 weeks, but on the terrace only 4 to a table. We can also do some retail therapy. Happy days. Yeah, Jean, thanks for the comment. As we have seen, the country is starting to open up again. Various autonomous communities are deciding to open those non-essential businesses like bars, restaurants, coffee shops, shopping centres in some places as well around the country as that that incidence rate goes down. Here in Madrid, we haven't suffered any of those closures. I know that in the Valencian community, the place that you mentioned there, it has been quite strict, but slowly, the country is opening up again. And let's hope that it stays open. We wouldn't want that incidence rate to go back up and places shut down again. So fingers crossed that the health situation stays under control. One here from Mary. Once again, thank you, Stuart, for all your informative information. I haven't missed one day listening to you for almost 12 months. I live in La Cala in Andalusia. My biggest concern is just when we are going to get vaccinated. I am in the high risk and over 65. Yeah, Mary, thanks for the comment and thanks for your support watching the videos over the last 12 months or so. And that's a question that a lot of people are asking themselves these days. When are we going to get vaccinated? As we saw the other day, there is an interactive map that tells us more or less when we're going to be vaccinated in this country. I showed it the other day. I think it was on the Antena 3 news webpage. And it also mentioned the different stages, stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. I imagine, Mary, that you're going to be in stage 2. I'm not sure exactly when that is going to be in Andalusia, but here in Madrid, stage 2 has already started. So I imagine that it's just a question of time before you get a call from your local medical centre telling you that your vaccination is ready. Valencia, as we saw before, has a very ambitious plan to get people vaccinated, and I'm sure Andalusia has something similar. One here from Don. Hi, Stuart. You're right about Andalusia. Some bars close earlier than 6 to avoid a shift change. Restaurants only do takeaway from 6 till 9. Keep up the great work, mate. And another similar comment here from Ben. We're just locked into regions in Andalusia at the moment. The municipality confinement was lifted a week or so ago. Yeah, thanks Don and Ben for the comments and thanks for pointing that out. I said the other day that I wasn't 100% sure what was happening down in Andalusia, whether you still had municipality confinements or whether they are now just limited to regions. It's very difficult to keep up with what's going on in all of the different places around the country. Things are changing so quickly, but I know that the restrictions in Andalusia have been some of the strictest in the country. And there's an important celebration in Andalusia today. It is Andalusia Day, and I think tomorrow is a public holiday, so enjoy that down there if you can. Obviously, it's not going to be easy considering the fact that you can't travel between regions down there and you can't get something to eat or drink past 6 p.m. So it's not going to be a big celebration like last year, but I'm sure that people will enjoy an extra day off. One here from Crikey Jones. Who the hell gets 826 euros a month? Try living in Menorca. You only get 426 euros. A lot of the time having to wait weeks for it. Yeah, Crikey, thanks for the comment. Obviously in relation to something that we mentioned the other day about the unemployment benefits in Spain and how they hadn't gone up in something like 10 years. 826 euros was the amount of money that they mentioned. And I know that unemployment benefits here in Spain can be more or they can be less than that amount. It depends how much you contribute into the system. But as I said the other day, 826 euros living in a big city here in Spain, not a lot of money. And of course, if you're living on 426 euros a month, it must be very, very difficult to make ends meet, unfortunately. And finally, one from Juan Carlos. Why can somebody from Paris fly to Madrid, but I can't go to Malaga from Madrid? Yeah, Juan Carlos, good question. Very, very difficult to answer. As we know, people from Paris have been coming down to Madrid to enjoy the freedoms in that city, and it's very, very strange considering that somebody from Guadalajara, which is a city 60 kilometers away, can't come to Madrid City unless they work or have a very good reason to do so. And you're right, if you are a resident here in Madrid, you can't go to Malaga, you can't go to Valencia, you can't go to Alicante, you can't go to Barcelona at the moment, but people from Paris can come here. So it's very, very strange, but as I said the other day, this is not the first strange thing that I have seen in the last 12 months or so. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.